I am working on it.
position to really push to their to push the boat out. I think they're both in a good position, and they know they're going to make the playoffs. That's the other thing. Like those teams are there, and we're in. We get the 3-game kind of like wild card now for that first set. So you're in a crapshoot at the best of times in playoffs, and this season it's going to be even more bizarre. So you're just gonna those teams that are already there are going to stay pat, and I think those three are already there. Unless they blow up, I think they'll easily take whoever finishes third out of those three will easily be one of the better ranked teams in the AL.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you make of that Mike Minor deal for the Oakland Athletics? A small move, but one for a team that seems to love accumulating serviceable starting pitching role.
Am I right in saying he's free agent at the end of the year as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is an odd one. It is an odd one for the A's to pick up. Everyone could use starting pitching, but and I don't believe they've given up much either. Just having to flick back and have a look over the notes. Yeah, so it's 2 players to be named later. Goodness knows what they end up being. It's a complete throwaway.
Two 2019 picks apparently, decent ones, but yeah,
Seems like a big pay then. Seems like a big price for someone like Mike Minor, who realistically you're only going to get a month out of, maybe 2.
Yeah.
They probably will get to the playoffs.
Apparently our audio is back. We've been having a few gremlins, so thank you to everyone who bared with us there. We've got 14 minutes to go to the deadline. Who do we think is gonna move? Anyone fancying anything big gonna happen in the next 14 minutes and 20 minutes thereafter? Russell, what about the Braves? The Braves have been quiet as well.
The Braves are such another team that's in like a bizarre position. They've got that good young kind of like central aspect to it, but a few injuries this season has put them out there. I think they've got a very good bullpen, which is probably different to quite a lot of the other teams that are looking to buy players right now. So I don't think they're going to be trading there, which means that what they really then want is somebody to give them that little bit extra in with the bat. And there aren't that many players that are jumping out in that category that haven't really gone. Like, obviously we've talked about Seager. I think Miguel Franco, who's had a pretty good season at Kansas this season, I thought somebody would like take him off their hands, probably relatively cheap. So it wouldn't be surprised me if they do something like that, just to pick up like an extra veteran sort of bat. But I think they're not traditionally like a wheeling dealing team for all kind of like outfield players, like or kind of like infielders. It's always been the bullpen, which has been their kind of wheeler deal approach, but that looks pretty set right now.
Yeah, and Darius, I don't know if you're actually now able to speak, given that you've been dealing with the audio nightmare. Been a strange one for the Giants, who have been sort of the hokey cokey of this trade deadline, in out, shaking it all about. But Farhan going through a trade deadline day without moving anything in or out, surely not.
Yeah, it seems odd that, I mean, the story came out a few days ago that they were more likely to buy than sell. I sort of read that maybe it's a bit of a bargaining tactic rather than a legitimate statement. But it does seem like he wants to do something. The man loves a transaction. I don't see how he could possibly get through this deadline without making some kind of deal. And yeah, I guess maybe he looks at the playoff picture and thinks, you know what, we can get in here, why not? But in that case, I don't really think this Giants team is good enough to do anything in the playoffs as currently constructed. So it's a little bit of a strange one. I would kind of expect them to do something, even if it's just around the margins.
So the Diamondbacks have been an active team today with Robbie Ray and Starling Marte moving on. Anyone think that they may be regretting that massive contract to Madison Bumgarner?
There's not a lot for them, is there? This is the beginning of a desperate slide. Their name is going to start replacing the likes of the Orioles and the Marlins over the next couple of years. And yes, I think there's been some bad decisions made in Arizona recently, and we're starting the very beginning of the end of that, I believe.
Right, so on the other hand, the Blue Jays, Russell, they might not be in Canada, but they're going to be in the playoffs by the look of those transactions that they've made over the course of the last 48 hours.
Yeah, they've definitely made that push. I think as we discussed in the last pod, 7 of the 8 AL teams are pretty much there and sorted, but that last one is up for grabs, and they're really fighting probably just the Orioles for that spot. So I think making a couple of trades that will give them that little bit more bullpen or the starter help, and just bringing in Marte or no Villar for the hold for Bichette going out injured, I think that will creep them over the line. And yeah, once you get into the playoffs, instead, crapshoot. But as Rachel pointed out on Twitter, it would be quite a bizarre event if you had individuals that would win the World Series with the Blue Jays, yet never have played a single game in Canada in the Rogers Centre. It's just one of those fantastic, bizarre effects that could occur in this season because of how stuff was being handled.
Yeah, quite so. Gone very, very quiet. Normally,
the fax machines are grinding away. I no doubt it's that little lull beforehand. They still do it with fax machines.
Yeah, you would hope so.
You'd hope so.
Cubs get Josh Osich from the Red Sox, another player to be named later. As Jared Carabas has said on Twitter, you get a guy like Ostrich and it sends a message that you are not effing around. This is a family stream, so we won't be saying that out loud, but there you go.
They're not burying their head in the sand.
They absolutely aren't. As a fan of several teams, one of whom may or may not have red in the name, interesting to see what some of those returns are further down the line for the club that plays up in New England.
Who plays the outfield for the Red Sox now? That's realistically, I mean, Tom's tweeted recently announced Rusney. So obviously he's voting for Castillo to get the call up, but they're a little bit short on everydayers now.
Well, Verdugo will play every day, and JBJ, who could be on the trading block, although he's owed a bit of money, and obviously has made himself very important in that clubhouse in the course of the last week. The suggestion is that they're going to be running Sue Lin and Michael Chavis out there. So Jackie Bradley's going to be playing centre and left centre field.
I was going to say, we all saw Michael Chavis playing in the large amount of foul territory at the London Stadium. He did not deal with looking for a high ball very well. So I can't quite imagine him in the outfield, but you could just throw out JD Martinez in there and just have him stand in some sort of area and just let the other two cover 90% of the outfield.
No, but you can't put JD Martinez out there because he will break. That's the reason. It's not that he can't. He's not a good outfielder, but the reason you can't put him out there is that he basically looks like he's running on stilts.
Put him
Nate Evaldi not moving. So.
Put him in front of the big monster. He doesn't have to go too far, does he? And all of his Karooms come into the centre field, yeah?
Did you see Hanley Ramirez fielding in front of there? It's a skill.
Do they move Martinez today?
I don't think he takes the contract.
Well, yeah, I think he'll very likely opt back in, given he's been rubbish this season. But yeah, I don't think he's going to move. It looks like with 7 minutes to go, we could be going quite quiet towards the end here. That
this is what we thought last year, and then pretty much at like 9:01, it was like, oh, Zach Greinke to the Astros. Excuse me, what's up? Zach Greinke to the Astros.
Yeah, people are starting to do that thing where they're tweeting that roster moves and trades from last year. Not for me.
Considering tweeting Pass and seeing if he's all right, he's really being quiet.
He's sitting on one, surely.
Yeah, something big. There's big yet to come. There's got to be.
Yeah, Russ is absolutely right. We sat here for like 10 minutes at least after the deadline last year going, well, that was a bloody washout, wasn't it? Like, what happened then?
That's why I've got the Mariners jersey up behind me. I'm trying to channel Dipoto. Not trying to be a Mariners fan. I'm trying to bring Dipoto into the room, trying to get some trades on the go.
Say, got the two phones, got the contacts basically ready to give us the information if we need it. We need our man down at the training ground, don't we? To see who's turning up. Should have got
The old-
Blake to be doing something at the Washington to see if they were going to try and do anything.
Yeah, they've been a very, very quiet Washington. They're just a bit of a sad club this year following their World Series win, really, aren't they? They seem to be like just a series of unfortunate events.
Is it the opposite of the things can only get better?
Yeah, quite so.
They were quite loud. I saw a couple of reports saying they were going to be very busy. So, I wouldn't rule them out quite yet.
They've not got long to move, and the Reds as well, who best rotation in baseball, pretty rubbish hitting, doing absolutely nothing. But I guess that's a sort of status of how bad the hitting market is. There's just no value out there unless you want to pay the over the odds price for Joey Gallo, I guess, Russell.
Yeah, Gallo is like, because he has a couple of years, his price is going to be a little bit higher. Obviously, you're going to have some fans that are going to look at his. I think he's still below the Mendoza line, but is then like slugging close to 500. So it's quite a beautiful line. But yeah, I don't think the teams are going to pay out for what the Rangers want. He's got too much kind of contract left to really get flipped. So yeah, your value isn't there. We needed like the Giants probably to mess up a couple more games, and people might have looked at the resurgence of Brandon Belt and even Longoria and maybe would have picked them up. They obviously wouldn't have got rid of Yaz, but like a couple of the other players that are playing well, you could have definitely got some high bids on those compared to how you would have any other year. So I think 2 or 3 of them could have gone, but they've just done a little bit too well in the last couple of games, or had a few games not happen because of some of the postponements, that they're still in a position to actually go for it.
He was 13 minutes after the deadline last year. The Greinke thing was tweeted. So we'll hold on. We'll hold on for that coming.
Something possible coming out of Tampa Bay. Mark Topkin of the Tampa Bay Times he's just teasing, saying that it's interesting that Austin Meadows has not appeared in the Rays lineup for a second straight day with 3 dots. So either he knows something or he is just speculating because nothing's happening. But that's possibly something. It's a team with a lot of outfielders right now and desperate need of some pitching.
You'd expect a huge haul for Meadows, wouldn't you, Rob?
Absolutely. I would demand a huge haul for Meadows.
I mean, I'd say why would the Rays do that, but it feels like we say this every time the Rays make a trade and then they make us look silly. So
plenty of reasons to shift a big player like that with the way the Rays are clearly now top of the since the Padres have been trading away all their pieces. They're now clearly the best system with quite a way. They've got a bit of a crunch coming up at the end of next year. At the beginning of next year with the Rule 5. So I would expect some big things to happen from the Rays in the next half hour or so.
There you go. Marlin's done for the day, according to Craig Mish. Well, thanks for the entertainment, Marlins. It's been a fun one. Couple of big trades from the Fish.
And 4+ runs off DeGrom.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're gonna have a good day, gents, it's put more runs on DeGrom than he's done in nearly a year, and make a couple of signings. It's a real sign that you're going for it.
It certainly is. Maybe that's why the Mets haven't made any trades, because Brody's just watching the game. Well, you wouldn't put it past them, would you?
It does feel slightly bizarre though to have like a couple of games playing like before. Like if there's one day where you would have thought, you know what, it's all evening games and it's all after games are kind of like finished. But no, I think baseball seems to take some sort of delight in players kind of leaving mid-game because they've been traded, or we all remember Wilmer Flores crying like on the field as he kind of worked out that he's been traded. But I think probably the one we'll talk about a lot more in the future is Puig basically getting in a fight after he'd been traded. So it's kind of like, well, you're going to come with a suspension now. That's exactly what the Indians wanted.
Well, right now we've got the Blue Jays are playing the Orioles, so and they're in the middle of the 6th. So that's the trade we want to see happen right now. I want to see someone walk from one dugout to the other.
Darius, you've been very quiet because I know you've got a lot going on in the background, but I wanted to get your take on AJ Preller's deadline and how he's managed to keep the majority of that massive stash of prospects that he's got, and still acquire Mike Clevenger, Austin Nola, Starlin Castro, not Jason Castro, not Starlin Castro, Jason Castro, and Mitch Moreland. It's been quite a couple of days for old AJ, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got this depth, I think you might as well use it. The Padres are never going to be able to get all of these guys in their lineup. So it's time to use it. I think the Padres have got the third best record in the NL right now. They're almost certainly going to make the playoffs at this point. So I think it's a good time for Preller to push moves all in. And a lot of these guys are a long way off as well. Some of the guys they've traded, or they just haven't really quite panned out the way they hoped. So I know Hedges is an exceptional framer, but he cannot hit. And clearly Preller is just going to stock up as much as he can, and I think he's definitely got one eye on the playoffs at this point, because the Padres would have to have a massive collapse, I think, to not make it. So yeah, I think we're hoping that the Padres would, either I think this year or next year actually come into force as a team to be reckoned with, and that's what's happening. So I wanted to ask everybody, I don't know if we've really mentioned yet.
In the meantime, the transfer window has swung shut, as Jim White would be saying right now, but we all know it hasn't, because Robinho's on his way to Manchester City. There you go. That's a niche reference for anyone.
Is still stuck outside QPR training.
QPR. Yeah. Sorry, Darius, I cut you off in your prime. Ask away.
Just the Tigers insisting that they weren't going to trade all these players like Jonathan Scope. I mean, they are technically at 500 right now. Does anybody think the Tigers actually have a chance?
That the Reds have got one of the coolest men in baseball, Brian Goodwin from the Angels.
There you go. Last minute.
Buster.
You know what the Reds are like with outfielders.
It's like, we can't have too many. Oh, wait. we have a DH now, so we could just put Jesse Winker there, because he can't actually defend.
Look, I mean, the Tigers, is there Alavila? What is he doing? Why are you keeping Norris Boyd? Why are you keeping Scope and Mabin? For goodness sake, get something for those guys. You are not going to get into the playoffs. Either or buy or sign someone. It's just extraordinary.
Definition of insanity a little bit, isn't it?
Such a strange team this year. Calling up all of those, pitching prospects to try and go for it, and just not having enough behind them.
2 games behind Blue Jays right now. So, and the Blue Jays have twisted. They have they've gone for it. They've made those trades. So you would think that would put Detroit at a position where they would have maybe responded to some of those deals that have been done to kind of try and keep up. But they've just gone, here we go. This is what we're going to do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so news coming in about what people haven't done. So the Braves did not add a starting pitcher before the trade deadline from old Buster. Good Lord, that just seems extraordinary. The Twins didn't... Go on.
Joel Sherman is tweeting now that the Dodgers are not getting Lance Lynn today.
Well, there you go. That's not a surprise. Yeah, the Dodgers didn't need Lance Lynn, though, did they?
No. The Dodgers are fairly set.
Once again, it's the Dodgeritis for probably using it's not the DL anymore, it's the IL. So it's far too long to remember that. Yeah, gone onto the injured list, and so add another one that you can rotate through for all of the months, and you would give out, but didn't really seem surplus to the requirements.
AJ Casavell of MLB.com tweeting that the Padres might have one more trade left in them.
Oh, wow. Of course, Jerry's still going. Not Jerry, AJ. It could have been Jerry, though, but it is Jerry. It wouldn't be a surprise, would it? They just pull another Mariners deal in the next 20 seconds. Mark Feinsand and Alex Spey are saying that both saying that the Red Sox are done. So Bradley, Vasquez, and Matt Barnes all staying put for Boston, so they're not going to be even worse than we thought.
Mark Topkin and Juan Toribio saying no deals for the Rays today. Nothing happening. Nothing at all, which is absolutely baffling.
Yeah, Rich Early saying the same for the Nationals, and Zach Meisel is saying the Indians are done for the day. So there goes my secondary hope that we might flip some of these prospects onto Texas.
We have some Cameron Maybin news. Cameron Maybin has been traded.
Yes!
Maybin is now a Chicago Cub.
Oh, there you go. Get that man a ring.
That is on my bingo card.
And the Reds have just got Archie Bradley in his thing.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Interesting.
I'm updating the trade counter.
Just saying the Reds weren't going for anything, and but Brian Goodwin and Archie Bradley, it's not nothing. Two of the coolest guys in baseball.
Definitely adds to that team.
Yeah.
Bradley not been quite what he was a couple of years ago. Darius, you'll know his numbers a lot better, but he's was huge for a couple of years and then has slid off a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really dropped off last season. He was had some quite poor peripherals really in 2019, and I wasn't a fan coming into 2020. He's been fine this season, to be fair, but yeah, he's not been the dominant Bradley. I think we spent a couple of years saying why isn't he closing for Arizona, and then kind of he was the closer all last year, and it wasn't actually that good.
Yeah, it all went wrong after that triple, didn't it?
that was it.
That was his pièce de résistance, and it was all downhill from there.
Yeah,
the Orioles.
This year's looked good. He's sitting on a 4.48 BABIP right now, which is partially responsible for his 4.2 ERA. He's actually got a 2.01 FIP. So if he probably continues to pitch the way that he does, the regression may very well work in favour of the Reds.
The Orioles have made an acquisition, Kevin Smith from the Mets. What the hell are they doing? Who's that for? Anyone got anything on Kevin Smith?
Kevin Smith? Good grief. Kevin Smith.
Very much enjoyed Mallrats. Dogma was a bit high concept for me. And frankly, by the time we got to the, what was the one he did with Affleck and J-Lo? It was gone then.
I think he's very middling pitching prospect from what I remember, but nothing particularly remarkable.
Bizarre.
Kevin Smith, he's a catcher.
No, there's two. There's Kev and Smith.
Oh, I thought we were talking Kev and Smith. Sorry.
It's Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith. That's how important this bloke is. Any more?
Well, we're still only 7 minutes past, so we've got to wait until 13 for the big one, obviously. I wanted the A's to make a trade so I could reveal our excellent background that Ben made for us, which has not happened. But it was very A's centric, so I'll do it now anyway, so that everybody listening can see it. It's being hidden by me and Rob at the moment, but everybody, there you go. A bit of Photoshop work from men.
Oh, I want to know whose face is obscured by Rob. It's not mine again, is it? For goodness sake, I hope not.
Obviously, this was originally Jonah Hill's face, but it's now John McGee's face.
Oh, for goodness sake! It's bad enough when they put me on Jim White.
Thanks, Ben. Top work.
How does Ben get paid to do social media when he's so bad at it? That's what I want to know.
Well, what he told me was it was really hard to find a picture of you smiling for this particular photo. So.
Fair.
The only way you're going to get a picture of John smiling is you just had to insult Tom. I think probably is the best way to go for it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I ever smile at. So, all in all, how do we feel? That's I think, a more active trade deadline than I was anticipating this time 4 or 5 days ago, Darius. You?
Yeah, I think we got a lot early. Clevenger was obviously a big name to be moved, and it was kind of hard to know whether the Indians would sell now. So that was a surprise one for me, and the Padres made it exciting. Can't argue with that. The Reds clearly still think this is their year, but a lot of big teams not really doing anything, and whether they just think, you know what, this season is totally random, we're not going to give up any assets to go for it in 2020. I can understand that, but yeah, we've had a few teams actually making this quite lively.
Yeah, the Reds making it very lively right at the end there. Rob, what about you? How are you feeling as a Rays fan? Bit of a strange one. Maybe they just know that they're a lock.
Ken's not done, boys. Ken is
Oh,
not
Ken,
done.
Ken is not done. Rob, keep talking. Russell's on Ken watch, but
The Mets, the Mets have got Robinson Chirinos.
oh, interesting. There you go. That's marginal. Very marginal.
I mean, Mets were definitely looking for a catcher, weren't they? I think there was some original talk about Christian Vasquez going. I know I had him down as one of my possibles, but I think it was always a bit of a cert that the Mets were going to get a catcher at some point.
I think Thomas Nido is, I don't know, I think this has been confirmed, but of the two players went on the IL for COVID reasons last week, and I think one of them already came back, Andres Gimenez. So Nido is the other one. I'm guessing that's why the Mets want another catcher.
Yeah,
And Chirinos is a catcher. He is an alive catcher. So well done to them.
We've had quite a few catchers go. Obviously, this time it's usually every trade deadline you get one or two that go through. But it's going to think that the Padres are probably going to need 4 different catchers, maybe 5 different catchers by the end of this season.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty extraordinary. You sort of saw the Austin Hedges trade coming today, didn't you? As soon as they got those 2 catchers yesterday, you thought that he's going somewhere. Maybe didn't know that it was going to be in the trade blockbuster, but yeah, he was gone. Austin Hedges, the man with the beautiful eyes. So Tom will no doubt be sad to see him go.
What sunshine now?
Yeah, they do. So Rob, what do you? I was coming to you about the Rays when the massive Robinson Chirinos news dropped.
Well, yeah, you got to push the Rays aside for that. The Rays. There's 2 ways to think about the Rays. The Rays are clearly one of the top teams for potentially winning this year's World Series, and it comes back to the podcast you guys put out earlier in the week. Is how real does this now feel? How has it become? How much of a real season has it become? And it's clearly different for some teams than it is for others. The Rays have plenty of pitching. They got an absolute abundance of pitching, and they've got plenty of guys almost ready to come up to play the other side of the ball as well. So there is an argument that any trades made now would be almost certainly for this season, and who is trading for this season. It's clearly they're not putting that sort of importance on this shortened season. So am I disappointed? Maybe a little bit, because it's been a tough watching this ever cycling bulk men going through the bullpen at the moment. But they're all going to start coming back. You know, Charlie Morton is almost ready. Ryan Yarbrough is almost ready. Nick Anderson's not going to be long off. So, but you know, any trade deadline where you get those 3 guys, you're already well ahead. So, realistically, Hart said yes, we want to do something. It's get exciting, but realistically, they're fine. They're getting into the playoffs anyway. And if it takes a month for all their guys to come back, so be it.
And it does look like the Giants have stood pat. No confirmation yet, Darius, but that seems extraordinary.
Yeah, it is hard to believe. I don't know if they just fell too much in the middle in the end. Yeah, as we were saying, whether they'd lost a few more games or even if they'd won a few more games, they might have felt a bit more empowered to go for it or burn it all down, and instead we're here and nothing's happened, which does seem very strange for Zaidi, especially. You would have thought he would get something done with the guys that they've got who are, you know, on 1-year deals, or who are just, you know, veterans who probably only have a year or 2 of good production left. You would have thought he would have found something, but yeah, I'm pretty surprised.
John,
So
what?
Go on.
Sorry, you've been following the Rangers. What are they doing sitting still on Lance Lynn and Joey Gallo? Have you got any explanation for this?
I don't follow the Rangers.
Yes, you did.
I said
I
they
clearly
had,
remember you're following the Rangers this year.
I said they had a nice jersey. I don't know. I mean, like, look. I mean, Lynn's got another year of control, so they didn't need to trade him. I guess that they were looking for a really big return, and once they saw what Cleveland had given up for Clevenger, and were like, yeah, that's fine, but it's not what we want. Maybe they just decided to sit. Obviously, no one was going for what they wanted, and Gallo, I imagine that he's the franchise cornerstone. He's the guy in that team, so they're going to want to get a big haul, and nobody's going to want to pay it because he's not as good as a franchise cornerstone. But one can totally understand why he is, because he's a big handsome dude and he hits big dingers and all that. But yeah, Aaron Judge, he ain't.
The Padres have agreed to a deal for another reliever, but it's not one of the market's big names apparently.
So there you go.
It's not Josh Hader or anything. Don't get excited.
The return for the Reds is Josh Van Meter and Stuart Fairchild, who are both probably going to be part-time players. Surely that's a strange trade for Bradley. You'd think that, and again, it looks like the Diamondbacks are maybe trying to compete next year. What's Hazen doing? Just get the part-time players in behind Mad Bum. He'll be able to hit again next year at least.
John Heyman is tweeting that the Mets have got Miguel Castro from the Orioles, so getting that bullpen a bit more help.
I'm surprised that the Orioles moved Castro. He's been good this season.
Yeah, and I think he has. He's got a few more years of control as well, so that one will be interesting to see if he goes back in the other direction. Because you'd want something that's going to be for either longer, probably a few extra players, or some longer years of control there. Because I don't believe that this Orioles revolution is permanent, but you can see that they've got some players that are going in the right direction. So they can build some more players to build it around, then it would be nice, but we just don't quite know.
I'm sure Mike Elias subscribes to the trade relievers at the peak of their value philosophy, and I guess.
And Ken is still not done. Probably signing up the evening. I'm taking the piss. Mets have got Todd Frazier.
As they say in Brokeback Mountain, I just don't know how to quit you. He's back. Good point about the D-backs. Next year, their rotation is going to have Zach Gallen, Caleb Smith, and Humberto Mejia in it, which is not bad actually. That's going to be well. And they're not going to. None of them's going to get the opening day start though. Mad Bum's wheeled out.
You've got. I mean, I know it's Bumgarner, but you've got to think that Gallen gets the ball next year, unless we see something incredible from Bumgarner over the last few weeks, because Gallen has been great, and Bumgarner looks like he, can't throw harder than Jamie Moyer now.
Doesn't need to.
There are like bullpen carts, but for Bumgarner, can we have bullpen horses? So he just kind of like rides in, kind of like the start of each game, like on the horse, and then kind of like it gets set back, and then the poor like groundsmen then have to repair all of like the hoop holes that have been done.
Definitely not a quad bike though.
No, not a quad bike.
All gone quiet.
Yeah.
Is that going to be it?
Is Todd Frazier going to be this year's?
I see.
Greinke?
This is. I see Sarah Griffin of Pitcher List just tweeting: "Was Todd Frazier not on the Mets already?"
Yeah. Fair.
If I had to guess, I would have said.
Fair comment.
And surprise, surprise, Zach Plesac will be pitching for the Cleveland Indians tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is time.
Well, it was either going to be one Covidiot or the other Covidiot, so we've traded one and got a lot of other things. I didn't think they were going to throw like Cal Quantrill straight into the starting lineup, given that he's been doing relief work for the Padres, so it seemed to be the likely thing. slightly depressingly. It wasn't going to be booked though because he's looked pretty god awful this year. So unless they were going to give Logan Allen a shot, it was pretty much always going to be Kavidi at number 2.
Zach Plesac still has an Instagram account.
You think they should have taken it off him, or you think he should have deleted
That's an easy win, isn't it? Just delete. Job done, gone.
Can't believe the Mets made 3 trades after the deadline. Metsy.
It's not quite Greinke though, is it?
No,
I think
it isn't.
Clevenger earlier on in the day. I'm slightly surprised no one else. I don't think it's a great haul, as I said earlier on. I'm surprised that if somebody else couldn't have matched that haul, or at least given the Indians something in similar. But I don't know. I'd have thought the Dodgers could have given up somebody like Jock Pedersen and a few decent prospects, and having Clevenger into that lineup could have cemented them even further. But I guess they don't need to make the deal, and that's the real issue.
Yeah, it seems that way. Are we now just waiting on the Padres reliever?
We don't know. We don't know who it is. We might not know who it is when they announce it.
Also, just to top things off on the delightful way that Cleveland do things, their president, Chris Antonetti, just told the media that Clevenger violating the team's protocols in Chicago a few weeks ago had nothing to do with him being traded to the Padres.
Of course not.
Exactly the same way that Trevor Bauer launching the ball into centre field or into the bleachers had absolutely nothing to do with him being traded to the Reds a few days later.
Nothing at all.
I just get to the point where it's just like, why'd you say it? I know somebody's asked you the question, and you're going to be like, well, we did what we think was best for the team. But it's kind of, you're just going to be like, yeah, it was a factor. It obviously was.
Well, looking at our predictions from earlier then, for those of you who haven't seen it, Darius had Lynn to Oakland.
I just picked the wrong Rangers pitcher, so I was pretty close.
Russell had Clevenger to the Dodgers.
At least mine was traded.
I had Vasquez to the Twins.
He was traded to South California as well, so, you know.
Absolutely. And John had Bauer to the White Sox. So I think we have to declare that the closest was Russell.
No, it was Darius.
What? Actually got traded.
Yeah, what's closer? Right team, wrong player, or right player, wrong team?
Oh, there's a fun.
Well, yeah, and it's the right 2 teams involved. I don't know. I think, to be brutally honest, I lost. That's all. That's all I know. I got your 3 through, and I would have probably said a Vasquez trade as well. But I was like, I've got to go bigger than that. But yeah, I think it came through about 15 minutes after I'd said that Bauer wasn't moving. I'm like, oh, there you go. We're done, are we?
I toyed with a Maybin, but wish I had now.
Oh yeah, that big deal.
A big deal. How many teams has he had now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 teams now he's played for. Once if he actually plays a game for the Cubs.
Gary Sheffield-esque. How is Robinson Chirinos 36? My word. But he's batting 119. Great pickup, Mets. Oh, goodness.
Chirinos always been good on the framing, Darius? Can you remember? Or I thought he was one of the ones that wasn't good.
I think he might be one of the ones who's, like, you know, gone all over the place.
Yeah.
But he's certainly, I don't think he's got a rep as, like, been consistently strong at framing, no.
Because obviously they have a strong hitting catcher at the Mets, with Reynolds, who definitely struggles behind the plate at times. So I think obviously you would have wanted to get in a defensively sound catcher, but
yeah, especially stolen bases. Ramos is very bad at catching runners. I know that much.
Isn't that like one of the things that the Mets are like utterly horrendous at?
Yeah, well,
It's
Syndergaard has always had a problem as well. So when Ramos and Syndergaard
Yeah.
have been on the mound together, they just allow stolen bases constantly.
As many people said yesterday, the Mets have just got a Mets.
Now, I'll say something. The Marlins fans on Twitter do not seem worried about this latest round of Mets trades.
No, and nor should they be, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they are buzzing. I'm enjoying it. I'm pleased for the Marlins fans. They seem to be having a great time.
I've just seen our great friend Pete Pratt, the Marlins fans UK, screen time on the iPhone today, 8 hours 28. Oh, good lord. That's unhealthy, Pete. Put it down. All right, are we gonna round up? Are we gonna put it down ourselves? Is there anything else from Ken? Anything else? Jeff's been very quiet, hasn't he? He's losing the shine.
Genuine concern for his well-being. Where is he? What's happening?
What are you doing,
Yeah,
Jeff?
he said nothing. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think we call it that Todd Frazier is the Zach Greinke of this season.
Absolutely. Right, so I'm gonna round it up by asking you guys. You're gonna hate me for doing this, particularly at you two analysts. Rob will just come up with a funny answer. For winners and losers, let's start with you, Rob. Give these two guys time to run up their computer-sized brains. You'll just give me a silly answer, won't you?
Well, Cameron Maybin is the obvious answer here.
He's
He's got another job. How's he not got another job? Player to be named later's done really well for himself. Well, the old ones are the best. I think the Blue Jays. I really like what the Blue Jays have done because the Blue Jays. I was watching Marlins game yesterday against the Rays, and the Rays commentators were saying, "Can you imagine this young, hard-throwing Marlins rotation in a couple of years alongside that Blue Jays lineup?" And they were absolutely right. So I think the Blue Jays adding a bit of pitching is going to have the most effect. It may not be the most flashy and most splashy, but I think they're going to have the most effect on what they're going to do for the rest of the season. So Blue Jays, my big winners. Big losers. Some tough ones. I mean, you could say the Padres are both. I mean, they've given up a lot of stuff. They've given a lot of stuff for some questionable moves in places. So I'm going to go with a questionable Padres. Questionable Padres. That's my answer for losers.
There you go. I'm also, as someone pointed out this afternoon, very interested to see how Mike Clevenger subsists under the tutelage of Larry Rothschild, Mr. Old School pitching coach. That's not going to be a marriage made in heaven. So Russell, winners and losers. I'm assuming that we can lock the losers in as the Cleveland Indians, but how about your winners?
Yeah, I think the Indians would. It does seem like a loss, at least for this season. I probably would also put losers wise Brewers and Cardinals. I just feel like they've not done anything. Like Reds have made some moves, Cubs, even if it's not the greatest moves, but like those two they've got genuine chances of making the playoffs, and they've not gambled in any way, in any major shape or form. So I think you could be losses there because other people could be picking up those wins. I think especially with the Padres, we're going to probably get a couple more wins. And I'm actually inclined to think that the Padres, I probably would have said the Blue Jays, but it's been gone, so I'm going to reverse Rob's, and I think the Padres are actually like the best team from this transfer deadline. I think they've signalled intent to actually go and win this season, or at least have a dominant challenge this season, and they'll be in position to do it for a few seasons to come. Clevenger's not a rental, so they've got like a few more years on there. So I think when you look at the players that have gone across, yes, it's a lot, and 2 or 3 of them that they've traded across the last couple of days are reasonably well regarded, but not all of them are going to turn out to be fantastic, and maybe only one, maybe none of them will turn out to be fantastic, and we'll be talking about this in like 2 years' time after the Padres have won back-to-back World Series, and we'll be going like, this was the greatest kind of like selling they sold at exactly the right moment, or we could be watching them lose 15 out of the next 20 games and be going like, they should have waited for all of these young players to come up through their system. But there aren't that many young players that have come up through the system in that Padres lineup. They utilised that prospect pool to generate a good player pool, and I think that's how you should actually do it.
Yeah, it was flipping all of these prospects. It was James Shields, and it was cheating. Remember the cheating. Everyone's forgotten the cheating. Let's just cheating won this evening. So did the Angels, because their return for Brian Goodwin is a player called Packy Norton. He was Dan Zimborski's pointed out, sounds like a character from Boardwalk Empire. I was going to go for someone who worked in the boiler room on the Titanic, but I don't know if Dan's is better. Darius, what about you? Winners and losers of the trade deadline before we hang this thing up.
I think if you look at the standings, I have to say the Marlins. Getting Marte is a big deal. It's like a good move for them. You know, he's an impact player, and just based on where they are, you know, they're at 500 right now. They're currently in a playoff spot, but that could go away very quickly. There are a lot of teams behind them that you would expect to make a run here. You know, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Brewers, they're all right there. The Reds have made a ton of moves. So I think for the Marlins to come out and show their intent by getting an all-star player like Marte is really big for them. So I'd add them to the list. I'm going to say the Rangers are the losers. I see a lot of holes on this roster. The only reason to not trade Lynn now, in my mind, is if you think that you're going to be good in 2021, and I don't think the Rangers are going to be good in 2021. They've traded Minor away. They haven't got any starting pitching. Andres is getting old. There's just gaps all over the place if you look at this Rangers team right now. I don't see those getting better next year. So maybe they didn't get the offers they wanted for Lynn, but I think it's a mistake. Hopefully they move him this off-season and get something for him then. But I think right now you have to say they're losers.
Yeah, I like that. I think I was split between the fish and the birds. So I'm gonna sit on the fence and say you guys are both right in terms of winners. And I wasn't going to be able to pick losers until the very end, and the Mets have lost again. That's going to be the final word. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined us. Apologies again for our gremlins, and thanks for indulging us on this trade deadline evening with a British take on the trade deadline. Thank you to Russell, to Rob, and to Darius for joining me this evening. This would have been available as a podcast, but I forgot to click record. So the cock-ups persist. So it was strictly for your eyes only. I'm sure we'll be back with another podcast in the next week or so, rounding up whether or not these players are actually any good. And for now, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Ciao.